Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome back once again. Today we're going to be taking a look at quite the controversial knife. And what I want to do mainly is take the controversy out of it and just judge the knife based on its own merits. And when you do that, when you take away the controversy of the fact that Microtech, a brand that's been very well known and well advertised as being proudly made in the USA, has done a limited collaboration with Rike Knife out of China to produce this knife and a pen and probably other projects in the future, that really drove a wedge in the community. And I get why. But if we take that out of the equation just for a moment and we judge the knife based solely on its own merits, on the fit and finish, on the machining, on the overall quality, the action, the feel, everything about it, it's a knife that you cannot deny is an absolute winner. And at the price of $330, it's a stellar winner. But then there's that little hook, and a lot of people are really stuck on it. Listen, I get if one of the main reasons you always supported Microtech was because they were making U.S. quality products. They were it was all about USA made. I get why you'd be upset. But what we're going to talk about a little bit later on is why I feel this particular move wasn't stupid and was probably actually much better for Microtech's business. And if you're really a Microtech supporter, if you say, I love Microtech and I want to support their business, you should support these side, I don't want to say contracts, these side collaborations. Because there's a very good chance that it's going to change the way their business operates and it's going to make things better. Now, this is just pure speculation, but I'm basing it on what many other companies have done in the recent past, in the last decade, with the shift and change in how they're manufacturing. And Microtech is just one of the many companies that are adapting to this new world. But controversy aside, I want to spend a lot of time talking about the knife itself, what makes it special, what makes it unique, what does not make it a SOCOM Elite, which is what everybody seems to be comparing it to. A lot of people seem to forget about the SOCOM Delta, which was constructed very similarly. Because the SOCOM Elite is two pieces of aluminum put together with a blade in the middle. The SOCOM Delta, number one, did have the same tip-up blade orientation for the clip, but it also used a backspacer with individual sides. So this is much closer to the SOCOM Delta that a lot of people just don't remember. And that's really the main comparison for me, is the SOCOM Delta to the SOCOM Bravo. And we'll talk about the origins of the Bravo series. We'll talk about the origins of the different knives in just a couple minutes. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware. Yes, I understand the controversy, and I'm not saying that anybody that is anti-China made product is a terrible person. You just have to realize where we're at in this world. And to demonize an entire brand, an entire company, and all the work that they're still doing here in the U.S. over one single product is kind of crazy. But I really hope that a lot of you that have been on the fence and just going, I just don't know if I could do a Chinese-made Microtech. I just don't know that I can support that. I don't know if I'm really up for that. I would implore you to, even if you can just borrow one from a friend, get one of these in your hands, and I can assure you that this knife is going to make a hell of a lot more sense. So without any further ado, let's go down to the tabletop. Let's get some close-ups of the knife. Let's take a good look at it, see what the details are, see what makes it special, and see why Metal Complex hates that lanyard hole so much. I don't know why. I don't think we're going to see that. It's a very functional portion of the knife, and it is pretty important. A lot of people don't like lanyards, and that's totally fine, but for a knife that's primarily designed for tactical, having a lanyard opening and having it prominent is pretty important, whether you're using it to more easily get it out of your pocket or you're using it for further hand-holding support. You've got it braided back here for a larger hand. Or, and let's be realistic, if you make a really long lanyard and just loop it loosely and you're swinging it over your head, you're going to take out 3, 4, 5 guys that are surrounding you. And think about it, there's no other way to effectively do that. So, it's important. Anyway, let's get down to the tabletop review and see what I think and see what you think about this incredible knife.
Let's say China. 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 China.
So let's talk about this unbelievably controversial knife. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the controversy surrounding it. I really want to talk more about the knife and the quality of it. But yes, we will touch on the controversy as well. For those unaware, this is the new Microtech and Rike knife collaboration, SOCOM Bravo. I chose the Tanto Edge. I really do like the other one a little bit more, but the Tanto Edge was made available to me at a price I couldn't refuse, so I jumped on it. This one also does have the blue pivot collars on them. And the packaging, let's start right there. In your face, Chinese symbolism, separating this Microtech from all other Microtech products. If you lived in a cave, did not know what was going on with this collaboration, you walked into a store and you saw this knife and went, I want that, and you saw the packaging, it is unmistakably different than all other Microtech and Marfione custom packaging. It stands out. You know, hey, there's a whole bunch of China going on here. They are not hiding it. They've never hidden it. They've put right out front before you even really got to soak in the images of the knife. They told you where it was made and why they did what they did. Whether you like it or not, they were honest about it. There are a lot of companies that have and still do claim USA-made pedigree, manufacturing fully 100% of the knife in China. You just don't know about it. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. So as we get into the packaging, which is still very, very nice, Microtech does really, really great with their packaging. This is your instruction manual for those that don't know how to open a folding knife. This shows you the market that has opened up for Microtech around the world. That there are people that have never even opened a fucking pocket knife that want this thing, and they're showing you, whoop, open. There's your lock. Here's how you unlock it. But there you have that. And safely ensconced within this dense foam is going to be the knife itself, the SOCOM Bravo. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you handed this to anybody that was a knowledgeable knife person, they didn't know about this knife yet, you just handed it to them without saying a word, they would easily assume, branded as Microtech, that this was a $600 plus Microtech with no hint of overseas manufacturing. And that's the most important thing to focus on out of everything, is the quality of the knife, the finishing of the materials, and the overall performance and how it feels. This feels like a high-end knife. No way around it. So let's talk about this. Microtech has collaborated on a limited series with Rike Knife out of China to produce the SOCOM Bravo. SOCOM Bravo did not exist as a production Microtech knife in the past. So the initial reaction from people was, man, this thing better be super cheap if it's made in China. Otherwise, I wish they would have made it here with Microtech in the US. Microtech never made the SOCOM Bravo. It was a Marfione custom, $1,000 and up. So if you wanted titanium with the titanium bolster look, with carbon fiber, and a blade machined like this, you would have to spend a minimum of $1,000. So what did people do? They compared it directly to the SOCOM Elite. This is not a SOCOM Elite. It is not assembled in the same way as a SOCOM Elite. It's not the same dimensions as a SOCOM Elite. There are many differences. But the SOCOM Elite, in all aluminum, 2 pieces of aluminum put together with a blade, is $280 at its lowest price when they're available in the manual. The side opening automatic is more popular and easier to get. When you can find a manual, people are flipping them for about $600 right now. But when they're available, it's a $280 knife base, and it goes up from there based on different blades and colors. This is $330. What do you get for that $50 difference? $50 difference. You don't get aluminum. You get all titanium. You get carbon fiber scales that are locked into place. You get a milled and sculpted custom titanium pocket clip in the proper orientation with tip-up carry. You get the fully sculpted and milled blade. You get the titanium pivot collars. They're doing them in bronze and in blue. I think there's also just a plain titanium that's going to be made available. Not sure. You are getting a really, really high-end backspacer going all the way full length from the butt all the way up to the blade. That's what you're getting for $50 more than the standard base aluminum. A lot of people like me have never owned a SOCOM Elite because they don't want to carry tip down. And for some reason, Microtech will not offer a different clip orientation. It is tip down only. I don't carry tip down knives. I only carry tip up. One thing that people tend to forget, and what this knife is closest to in a production Microtech, was the fact they made a SOCOM Delta. SOCOM Delta was this size and shape, and it had a tip-up carry orientation for the clip. If you go back to one of my earliest videos, almost 10 years ago on my channel, back when Microtech first introduced the Zombie Tech series, I did a Zombie Tech video with the Ultratech and a SOCOM Delta. The SOCOM Delta was one of my favorite manual opening knives, the way that it felt when it deployed. When you hit those thumb studs, the way that it feels and the way that it locks up is crazy. Now, it didn't have an action anywhere nearly as smooth as this, but it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed that knife. And I believe that was right around $325 or $350 in aluminum back then, almost 10 years ago. Here, $330. And what you've got is a knife to really be proud of, to look at and feel and go, wow, the quality in this knife is insanity. Voidless carbon fiber. Let's start there. No voids in the carbon fiber. It's clean. It's nicely sculpted to go with the overall design of the knife. They've dehorned the edges with a nice bevel on there. It's not rounded. It is beveled, so there is a little bit of an edge there and there, but you don't feel it when you're holding the knife. As far as comparing this to the Elite, this comes out thicker up here and thicker back here. Overall, it's pretty much the same dimensions. It just gets a little bit thicker here and here. Blade stock is the same, obviously ground and milled very, very differently. The thumb studs double as your blade stop, which provides a really nice lockup sound against the titanium. Listen to that. Very, very solid. There's your lockup, by the way. Good, solid lockup, not too early, not too late. What Tony claims is they wanted to see if a Chinese manufacturer could manufacture one of his most complicated manual openers and do it as well as he could. I don't know about all that. All I know is this is something that didn't come lightly. If I had to guess, I'd say this was a minimum of 2 years in development. To work with Rike, to get the designs going back and forth, for Rike to say, we can do this, we can't do that, here's what this is going to cost, here's how this is going to come out, and for Tony to weigh the decision of being a very proudly made in USA brand since he formed the brand in the early 90s, was it 93 or 94? and has rested very heavily on "we are proudly made in the USA." Here's the thing. Think of anything from 1993 that's the fucking same today. Nothing. We're all carrying around basically desktop computers in our fucking pockets. We're carrying around camcorders in our pockets. Our tax rates are different. Our income levels are different. Everything about living in the world in 2022 is vastly different from what it was in the early 90s. Music is different. Art is different. Architecture is different. Cars are different. There is nothing that's the same as it was. And if you don't evolve, you're going to disappear. I don't need to validate Tony's choice. He's a big boy. He can do what the hell he wants. But when I look at this purely on a business standpoint, look what's happened in the past decade. Since Rike knives came out, since WE knives and Rike then followed suit coming into the U.S., the quality that they were putting out for $300 and $400 knives that were rivaling knives that were worth double in the mid-tech and custom sector. And people slowly realized this is the way of the future. So many huge custom maker names that have had production versions of their knives made in these higher end Chinese factories has completely changed the game. When was the last time you bought a custom made Enrique Pena knife? When was the last time you bought one of his Rike production knives? They're certainly much more accessible. I see posts about them every single day online. Ramon Chavez. What was the last custom you bought from Ramon? And when was the last time you saw a production version? They're everywhere. And this is the way the world has gone. And if you're a company as big as Microtech that is dominated in their sector, in their price ranges, selling hundreds of thousands of knives probably a year, and you're watching people go, well, do I spend $280 on this cool SOCOM Elite that's just aluminum and a basic steel like M390 or S35 VN? There have been many offerings in their steel in that knife. Or do I spend the same amount of money, or maybe $20 more, and buy a titanium bolstered, carbon fiber scaled, higher end knife with an incredibly smooth action, yada, 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 boom, 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 boom. It's a really hard thing to hold on to your market share when you're stuck with the manufacturing that you're limited to by being all U.S. made. Designing every knife yourself, setting up the CAD and CAM for all this yourself, manufacturing all the components, and then hand assembling yourself in the United States. Meanwhile, you could spend half as much getting it made elsewhere by a high-end. And we're not talking about just any Chinese manufacturers. We're not talking about the manufacturers of gas station knives and companies that have ripped off custom knife makers' designs. We're talking about high-end manufacturing that Rike does. One of the things they specialize in is making titanium integral folders, which is very, very difficult to do. And they do it for less than the price of anybody else's standard sandwich-style manufacturing process. Think about this for a minute. One of the analogies that I use, and that I think makes a lot of sense and more people can understand it, look at Harley Davidson. They have recorded record long losses every year, even though they're considered to be, by many, to be the greatest American motorcycle ever made. They are the most recognizable brand name in motorcycles and one of the top most recognized brand names in all of retail around the world. Yet they've recorded record long losses, years and years and years of losses. Why? Because they kept listening to their older customers. The ones that have been riding since, the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. They don't want shit to change. They're like, oh, leave that shit to the Japanese bikes. Leave that shit to Indian. We don't need this. We don't need that. We don't need lean angle sensors and leaning ABS. And we don't need rider modes. And we don't need adjustable suspension. And we don't need navigation systems and all this and all that. We don't need all that. Leave that to all these other brands. I want what I've always bought. And it has nearly destroyed Harley-Davidson. Now what have they done? Oh man, look at the Pan America. Look at the new Sportster. Look at the new motors they're developing. Liquid-cooled motors, which they have fought and fought and fought and fought. These old-timers fought and fought. We don't want liquid-cooled. We don't care if it could be a smaller motor that puts out more power and less heat. We want air-cooled for some fucking reason. And Harley kept listening. And they kept losing money. And at some point, those old-timers are going to die. They're in their 60s and 70s. They're not going to be riding anymore. They're not going to be buying any more bikes. They have to evolve and adapt. And that's what they're doing. They're producing a smaller motor that generates less heat, that provides way more power than they've ever had in any motorcycle before, even more than the V-Rod, which was Porsche designed anyway on the motor. They're adapting. They're evolving. And what's happening? This quarter, they reported, hey, we're doing good. We're not hemorrhaging money. Our motorcycles are selling like crazy. We can't hold on to them. So you put Microtech in that category. If they continued only making how they make and selling at the prices that they sell at, which, by the way, that's all you see is people complaining about how expensive Microtech knives are. Oh, how can I justify $300-400 on that knife? So you want them to make in the way that they've been making, at the high prices they've been charging, so that what? You can complain about them? So what they've done here is branched out and said, okay, let's maximize everything. Let's put all the premium materials in there. Let's go from aluminum to titanium. Let's go from just pockets being milled out to having really nice sculpted carbon fiber. Let's put in that enormous titanium backspacer. Let's have a custom sculpted clip, which, by the way, works phenomenally well, in the proper orientation. Let's doll it up a little bit with some anodized titanium pivot collars. And let's give it an action on bearings that is ridiculous. It's fast, it fires hard, it opens up and locks solid, smoothly closing. Let's give them all this and do it for less than we would charge for almost anything else that we make. And people still cried. Oh, they cried online. Oh, gotta be American made. Gotta be American made. Where were your shoes made? Where was your jacket made? Where was your cell phone made? Where was your television made? Where was the air conditioning for your home made? All of these things were made in China. I get wanting to support U.S. made. I'm very big on that. I've only recently, in the past year, bought my first car that was not American made. I love American made products. Don't ever mistake what I'm saying. I love American made products and I buy them whenever possible. I can't go out and buy a high quality smartphone made in America. So it's got to be Apple, made in China. That's the way it is. Or any of you with Android phones, the Samsungs, they're all made over there. Sometimes we buy Korean made products. Sometimes we buy Taiwanese made products or products from Thailand. Sometimes, most of the time, it's a China-made product. And a lot of USA-made products, and forget products, a lot of USA-made knives have Chinese components in them. Or they had their parts machined in China. But because they assembled them in the U.S., they call them U.S.-made, and you proudly proclaim your U.S.-made pocket carry that day, while the rest of us snicker and go, he does know that those fucking handles and that blade were all cut out in China, right? So what I'm saying is, buy what you want. It is absolutely your right to say, I only want to buy a product made in America. That's great. But don't bash everybody that you see that bought this knife and fell in love with it. Don't bash the company for making a choice that will keep them in business and allow them to continue producing the USA-made knives to the standards that they've been made at without cheapening out somewhere or going out of business. Because if they had not done something like this, and if they don't continue to offer a line like this, and they only made their own products here in the U.S. at U.S. labor rates, there's a good chance that they would have been swallowed up with the successes of so many other brands that are both making U.S. and China or only China. It's the customers that have dictated this. I'm sure this was not an easy decision for Tony. It's the customers that dictated it. It's the customers that would see a really nice Microtech knife sitting on, let's say, the hollowgrind.com. And they're like, man, that Microtech is gorgeous, or that Marfione Custom is gorgeous. That $400 or $1,800 knife sure is gorgeous, but man, I could spend $300, $400 and get a really high-end material manufactured Riot knife or Rike knife or Wee knife that was designed by one of my favorite custom knife makers. And it's offered in a limited run that will just go up in value. So what do? That customer is the one making that decision. That customer is the one that's selling those other brands out consistently. And as the owner of one of the largest knife manufacturers in the United States and in the world, if I were in Tony's position, I'd have to look at that too and go, how can I reclaim my market share? How can I continue to grow my business and not let it fall on its face? I've got to diversify. That's the way it is. But when I do so, I'm going to make it very fucking clear what I just did. I'm not going to hide behind it. I'm going to get out in front and say, hey, I'm doing this. We're doing this particular line in China. I'm still going to continue all of my other manufacturing in the United States. That is not changing. So if you don't like a China-made product, I have thousands of other knives made right here in the good old US of A that you have access to. So the choice is yours as a consumer. But instead, people want to draw a line in the sand and be for or against this entire brand based on one knife and one pen. And I don't get it. So what I did is I wanted to judge the knife itself on its own merits, not worrying about where it was made, just seeing if the knife was any good. So there are guys out there that bought them for $330 direct from Microtech, the only way that you can buy it, direct from Microtech. And they turn around and were selling them for $500, $600, $700, and people were buying them. Now, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't crazy about the weight involved in ordering from Microtech at this time. So I've been waiting. Saw one pop up on Instagram. Jamie loves knives. Thank you, dude. You know what he did? He put it out there for $300. Put it out there for $30 less than it retailed for and included the shipping. So for $300, cannot beat this. $300 fucking dollars? This knife is amazing. If I spent $500 on this, I'd still feel like I got a damn good knife. Forget where it was made. Forget the brand names that are on there. Forget the fact that it says Microtech and Rike knife. Just based on the fitment of the materials, the quality of the materials, the finish work that's been done, the machine time that had to go into this friggin' knife, man. Just the machine time on the backspacer. Just the machine time on the pocket clip. All of these things. Man, when I opened up this knife when it arrived, I was like, shit, I get it. I get it, man. When I flipped it open and dropped it shut, I went, man, I get it. I really, really get it. I absolutely love this knife. I love the way it feels in the hand. I like the additional heft over the aluminum. I love the bolstered look with the carbon fiber. For those that know me well, one of my favorite combinations has always been carbon fiber up against titanium and a little dash of blue. So for me, it was perfect. For those that don't know, overall length is 9 inches. With a 4-inch M390 blade that's been, I don't know if this is bead blasted or vapor blasted. It's a very fine bead blasting. They're offered in the Tanto. They're offered in, I forgot what they named it, but more of a, just a, I don't even want to say it's a trailing point knife because it doesn't trail off. I think they call it drop point, but it's not a drop point. Anyway, so there's the Tanto or non-Tanto, and you can get them plain edge like this or partially serrated. The handle is 5 inches. Pocket clip is titanium. Backspacer is titanium. Everything's titanium. Don't get it confused with the SOCOM Elite. It's not. If you put this up against the Marfione Custom SOCOM Bravo, yeah, there's going to be a difference. I'm not going to lie. But there is not going to be a $1,000 difference from most people. I love this part. I've always loved the way that scallop just ramps straight into the thumb stud. So I'll say this. If you only buy American-made products, again, good for you, man. That's awesome. You're not, because most of the things in your life were made in China, no matter how much you yell about it on the internet. But if you only buy USA-made products, man, there's still a whole bunch of great Microtechs to choose from. Let the man run his business the way he sees fit, so he can keep his employees, so he can keep production up, so he can keep manufacturing all the knives that you want that are US made. Let him do what he's got to do to diversify to make that happen. For those of you that don't give a shit where this knife was made, I'm going to tell you right now, when you get it and you open it, and you hold it in your hand, and you take a good close look at the details of the knife, you're going to be very impressed. I know I was. And I had conflicting feelings with it coming on the way, but I've handled enough Rike knives to know when they're in this price level that they're really high end. They make some more inexpensive knives that they're not quite up to the level that their other knives are. But I mean, it's a big brand doing lots of various things for different price points. But I knew at this price point that it was going to be nice. It honestly is nicer than I thought it would be. I love the blade. I love the grind on it. It's a little bit thick. It's not a crazy, super slicey knife, but it's got a very, very good edge. Not quite a Microtech edge, but a very, very good edge. Lockup is phenomenal. The feel in the hand, the ergonomics, the design quality all the way around, the build quality all the way around really does punch above this price point. This could very easily be $450, $500, and nobody would blink an eye if they were holding it. That's how nice it is. So that's my thoughts on the knife. That's my thoughts on the controversy. That's my thoughts on the business end of it. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you try, if you try to justify it or not. Just look at it as a knife. Is this a knife that's up to the quality level and design that I want to have in my collection? And if it is, buy it and enjoy it. If it's not, then move on to the next thing. Buy yourself a nice Sebenza for $200 more than this. And it might make you $200 more happy. I don't know. Certainly not going to ever bash a Sebenza. God, I love Sebenzas. But at this price point of $330, this is a stupid, stupid deal. And I wouldn't be surprised if next year they introduce this model at a little bit of a higher price, because this is a little bit too low for what you're getting. If they keep it at the same price, God love them. That's fantastic. You're getting a hell of a deal. So if you're just looking at this video going, I just want to know if the knife is good. I'm tired of everybody talking about the fucking controversy. Is it a good knife or not? Yes. Is it worth the $330? More so. Absolutely. You will not be disappointed if you laid out even $400, $450, $500 on this knife. I wouldn't do that because that's not the value of the knife. But if you did, if you're like, I don't want to wait, and the only guy selling it is raping me for $475, you'll be able to justify it. You'll get it and go, worth every penny, totally happy with it. I'll lose my ass off if I go to resell it, so there's that aspect of it. But as far as justifying the quality versus the price, absolutely. You will absolutely love this knife. It's a little thick and heavy for EDC carry for a lot of people. At 3.5 ounces? No, this is not 3.5 ounces. No, this is not 3.5 ounces. 5.8 ounces. My apologies, 3.5 ounces would have probably been the SOCOM Elite. So 5.8 ounces for a lot of people is going to be a bit much to carry as an EDC. For me, I'm totally fine with it. I've shown you plenty of knives in my collection that weigh this much and more. So it's entirely up to you. But if you want a fantastic made knife in premium materials with expert machining and expert manufacturing quality overall, do it. Just do it. Don't even think about it. And I'm pretty much assuring you that you're going to love it. All right, guys, I'm out of here for now. I'm going to get on to the next videos as quickly as I can, and I'll see you then.